at where how that happened. Anna Murray never learned to read or write. Yet, she was married to the most famous man of letters. She kept house, not a small thing in the 1830s. She raised 5 children who all were educated. Anna Murray is the reason that we know her for the Frederick Douglass we know. So the first thing you want to do when you leave us today, you're going to go home and think about Frederick Douglass. Read something. Read something. Watch YouTube. I know you like watching stuff. Just watch. Look for Frederick Douglass so you will understand why he is so important to everybody. That's one. Because he did a lot for women as well. This is the Women's Exchange, 130 years, women helping women. Frederick Douglass was one of the very few men, black or white, who really took women's rights to heart, and in a convention of women, he was the one male speaker. Big deal. So I want you to understand why everything is such a big deal. Anna Murray Douglass did not read or write, but her daughter, Rosetta, said, my mother, as I recall her, said that when she arrived in New York, she wore a plum-colored silk dress as her wedding gown. That's all we know. We know she sold a feather bed so that Frederick Douglass could travel. We know that she had 2 because she had one in her trunk. We know that she had other things where she thought that she would be able to set up house one day. Anna Murray was 25 or 26 years old. She was older than Frederick Douglass. They had a pact, and that pact was that they would remain married until they died. She died before he did. They were married 44 years. And while he was out, he traveled all over the United States giving speeches. Remember, he was the rock star. Traveled all over the United States giving speeches about what it means to be free. What did it mean to be a slave? He went through all of that. When you read that, you have to say to yourself, and I am doing what with my life? That makes you have to step up your plan because you're standing on the shoulders of somebody really, really important. When I dreamed up Anna Murray and her wedding dress in New York City where they got married, he was only there 12 days between the time he arrives and the time they get married. The day they get married, they say, I do. He picks up the big trunk, she picks up a little suitcase, and they leave immediately. Immediately. Why? I already told you. Slave pit, exactly. It's not safe. So when I was thinking about Frederick Douglass last year, I was thinking she wore a plum-colored wedding dress. Cassandra! I called my friend Cassandra. And I said, Cassandra, would you consider making this wedding dress for Anna Murray Douglass? I had an idea. I was walking around where they got married in Lower Manhattan. And I was standing there and I was trying to imagine what Frederick Douglass could see when he was there. Because he writes about this. First time he steps into freedom. How does that feel? But he couldn't really rejoice because he wasn't totally free. But here was Anna Murray, who he sends a letter to. He says, come to New York. She comes to New York. They get married immediately. They leave immediately because in New York their names were not Douglass. The name was Johnson. David Ruggles says, you go to Massachusetts and I'm going to give you this letter from my friend and he's going to take you in. And his name was Johnson. And he was reading a very famous piece of literature at the time called Lady in the Lake. And the protagonist, the last name was Douglass. And Douglass says, okay, I'll take that name. Because you know, when he got to New Bedford, Massachusetts with Mr. Johnson, and he says, well, I'll take the name Johnson. Johnson says, no, you can't do that. There's so many Johnsons in New Bedford that even for the colored people, they're putting a C next to Johnson so that they know that they're colored. There were so many Johnsons. So Douglas puts an extra S on his name when he gets to Massachusetts. So now you know he was born Frederick Bailey. When he gets to New York, his name is Frederick Johnson. And when he gets married and he moves up to New Bedford, right after he gets married, on September 15th is when they got married, he takes the name Douglas and adds the extra S. You all are so smart. I expect dissertations out of you.